is at an end. We had a discussion yesterday about the results of this. If you choose to talk while we are giving you a lecture, what is the result of that?
Reading on the
Go for it. Now, I'm sorry, Galileo, what was it? The 25 pages. We're trying to do you a favor here. We're trying to condense down 25 pages of reading into a 2-day lecture. What happens with this is you need to help us out. Because we can't do stuff like this if you choose not to pay attention. If you choose not to pay attention, we'll give you something to pay attention. We'll give you the reading. We have enough books, we can give every 7th grader a textbook. Or excuse me, every 8th grader, sorry. We have enough textbooks, we can give every 8th grader a textbook, and we can tell you, go home, write notes, come up with the main ideas and the details for each of these. If you choose to talk during the lecture. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
If you're quiet and following along like you need to be, what's going to happen? You'll stay here, we'll get through these lectures, we'll condense down the chapters and sections that we need to, and all will be well. So help us out. Pay attention.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the last thing we ended with yesterday was land, okay? Look in your notes. Okay, it was the last thing we ended with. Right after land was Ferdinand Magellan. That's where we're going to start. We talked about Columbus and how he sailed for Spain. Okay, we're going to talk about Ferdinand Magellan. Okay, sailed for Portugal. Alright? Now, just a reminder, if it's in red, I want you to copy it down word for word. If it's in yellow, condense it down into your own words. Green, just read it for your own use. Okay? First man to circumnavigate the world. Go all the way around. Okay? Go ahead and write that down. First man to circumnavigate, sail around the world. Okay. And if you weren't here yesterday, just a reminder, okay, during Mr. T's lecture and during my lecture, we're both going to be putting all the stuff up on the board for you. So if you're left behind, you can catch up. Okay? Now, first man to circumnavigate, then I put this. Well, kinda. Okay? The reason I put well, kinda is because Magellan died on the voyage. Okay? And didn't make it back. Okay? So you can put kinda, and then Magellan died on the voyage. Go ahead and put that.
Oh, yeah.
His men did though, and he gets credit for leading them. Okay, his men made it back to Portugal, but he didn't. Okay, he died in the Philippines.
How?
How? He was taking over a tribe in the Philippines and got stabbed and killed. All right, he died there. Butchered. He got butchered.
Did they chop off his head?
I'm sure whatever
Did they
creative.
scalp it?
Fill the blank. All right.
They did his brain.
Okay, so the next box, the last box, results of exploration. Okay, these voyages opened up new opportunities to trade across the world. Okay, these voyages. So condense that down. Voyages equal great opportunity. Voyages equal great opportunity around the world?
For trade.
Hold on. For trade. Whoa.
Whoa, what happened?
You'll get it fixed,
Yeah.
don't worry.
Okay. And then my second point, it led to great conflict as European countries tried to create colonies in the New World. Okay? So you could say European colonies led to great conflict. Good way to smush it down. It's yellow.
The
European
New World was America.
European colonies created great conflict. Lando, you got it? Okay. But most importantly, what it did, okay? Now, on your next page that we just gave you today, my class, oh dang it, I got extras. Raise your hand if you need one. You did not get notes from Mr. Lee today.
I have one in my class.
Yeah, you did. Oh, dude, I can touch it. Where's their camera? They're recording us.
Is that a camera? Yeah.
No.
I was gonna have some too, but I don't want to know.
Thank you.
Why is there a camera back there? Whoa! It's staring at me.
Videotape this and put it online so the students can read a couple more. If you want to
Right
check it later,
there.
you can see it.
Class? Class?
Yes.
Okay? Very first box, okay, it says cultural exchange. That's where we're starting on this new fresh sheet of paper. Okay? The Europeans did not speak the language of the natives. Okay? That's the first thing you're going to be writing down on this new sheet. The Europeans did not speak the language of the natives.
Why need one?
This is it.
Imagine it kind of went something like this. What's that? And then natives were like, oh, okay, what do you say? Okay, they had to get information across by using physical communication, like pointing. Probably a lot of points. Eventually, the Europeans taught the natives to speak Spanish. Over time, natives learned.
Thank you.
Which is why most of Latin America today still speaks Espanol. Besides Brazil. Okay.
You can follow up here. If you're not getting it down quite yet, you can follow up there.
Okay. The Colombian exchange. This is the next box on your notes. Okay? Better be Johnny on the spot. Write this down, okay? The point of communicating was to mostly so they could trade. So communicating was for trade. Okay? Okay? Communication was for trade. Doesn't make sense.
The communication with the natives?
Yes.
Wait,
Communication with the natives.
That's
Chad.
what he's talking about.
Oh, wait, the two Colombian exchange. Okay, never mind. I got that.
Happens a lot. Alright. Europeans brought back many new things. Okay? And they also brought things to the Americas. Okay? So Europeans brought new things to the Americas. So condense it down. Europeans brought things to America. Okay, here we go. Moving forward. It's on the board. Okay, now we're going to talk specifically. This is the easier one. There's only 4 things you're just going to list. And this isn't the only 4 things that exist. There's a ton of things that are being brought from America to Europe. One of the first things, though, is chocolate. Okay? Ooh. First things is chocolate. Second thing is corn. Third thing, tobacco. Fourth is potatoes. Okay, go ahead and copy it down.
Who here likes pizza?
Hey.
Okay. So, the peppers, the red chilies you use on the pizza, American. South American. The tomatoes you like on the pizza, South American. See, what else would there be on pizza?
Cheese would be European.
Yeah, cheese would be European. The rest of it, I guess, yeah, still stays European. Unless you have cornbread pizza.
Pepperoni.
Oh, pepperoni. Where's that?
Pineapple would be tropical, yep. Good words into that game. I think that is a Caribbean fruit.
Okay, this is America to Europe. Now we're going to go from Europe to America. Okay, from Europe to America.
Look, ladies and gentlemen, colonial exchange. Europe to America is the first box. In that box, you put this information. In the second box is Colombian exchange, America to Europe. And that's where you put.
Put those out a little bit. Just put arrows.
It's Europe to America.
That's not the right way chronologically, is it?
I put everything down, including the stuff on the next slide.
Okay,
So they have that down.
but it's not the right way chronologically. Okay.
So wait, did the chocolate, corn, tobacco, potatoes go under?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Exchange?
Here,
Can they not
hold on.
use arrows?
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this, okay? So, this first box on your paper says Europe to America, right?
Yes.
But if you already wrote down corn, chocolate, tobacco, and potatoes there, cross out Europe to America and make it America to Europe. Okay, simple solution to simple problems. Kiss, ladies and gentlemen.
This? What?
Keep it simple, stupid. Or silly, if you want to be nice.
Yeah.
I love this.
Okay, moving forward. Did you have both? No?
No?
Alright. Write this down. Okay, moving forward in 10.
Wait, so on this one it says Europe to
Fine.
America.
Okay.
It's like saying
Next box, diseases.
Okay, Chad and Coach.
With the horses, guns, and everything.
Okay, next box, diseases. Unfortunately for both sides, they also traded diseases. Brian. Stop talking. Sit up. Okay, diseases. This should be moving. Next box.
So, is this supposed to be Europe to America? Horses, guns, iron, diseases.
Many Europeans died from malaria.
It's brought new things. And so is this one. There's
And many natives died from smallpox brought in from Europe.
now. Okay, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I get it written up here.
Is that how it works? Wouldn't it be American natives? It's like saying you're an 8th grade student, a first student that's in 8th grade.
doesn't make sense if you say a great student.
It still makes sense.
That's my question.
Alright, moving on. You ready to move on?
Did you hear what I said?
Thumbs up if you're ready to move on. Me. It's more than half moving forward. Okay, moving forward. On to Mr. T's lecture.
That's my country.
T, you're up.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, now remember, we're condensing down a lot of information. This is 2 sections of the book, plus a little bit of an extra thing that I thought was important for you to know. Very little extra thing, but it was important for you to know nonetheless. There are 3 main colonial groups in America, 3 main ways to colonize. This is what we're going to go over today. Just to make sure we retouch on our student learning objective, students will compare and contrast non-English settlements and exploration. That's what we're doing. The English practiced one type of settlement, the others did it a different way. Your notes are set up so you can follow along. There's only one time where you're going to have to write down an entire sentence. The rest of them are just little 1 or 2 words here and there. that fill out the statement, okay? Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, remember, this is in place of a whole lot of reading, so let's pay attention and follow along. This is also going to be relatively fast-paced because we have a lot to cover. So, first off, you have three groups. You have the Spanish, you have the French, and you have the English. Yes, this is already on your paper. We have other groups that settled as well. You have the Russians, you have the Dutch, you have the Portuguese, and you have the, well, yeah, you have the British, Swedish, and a number of other groups. However, the three main groups, three main countries who settled the Americas were the Spanish, the French, and the English. And all three of them practiced different types of settlement. In the case of the Spanish, they did exploitative. That means they exploited people. What does that mean, Mr. T, exploited? That doesn't make sense.
They killed them.
Okay? No, they didn't really kill them. What they would do is they'd come in and they'd take over the culture. Okay? So the Aztecs, they were a settled civilization, right? They had a leader named Moctezuma, right? So the Spanish come in and they kill Moctezuma, and there's no more Moctezuma ruling the Aztecs. But who do you think rules the Aztecs now?
Spanish.
The Spanish. Do you think anything really changed for most of the Aztecs at that time? No. For most Aztecs, it was basically the same. They still gave tribute to somebody, only rather than giving it to Moctezuma, they gave it to the Spanish. Okay? Most Mexicans, most Peruvians, most Chileans, okay, they are pretty much native. Okay? They are mostly Aztec. They are mostly Chihuahuan. They are mostly Mayan. There's a little bit of Spanish blood in them, but most of the people in those areas are the same as they were 1,000 years ago. The French, however, did a different type. They did economic. In the economic type, what you would do is you come and you do a small exchange. Now, like we said, in the Aztec, you come and you kill the people that lead and take over. In economic, you go and you say, hey Chaz, I'd like to do an economic exchange with you. I have this. Would you trade me something in return for it? And Chaz goes, yeah, sure, betcha. And we do a little economic exchange. Everybody's happy. Nobody has to be killed. Nobody has to be conquered. It's all happy.
I like the Spanish.
Okay?
I like the Spanish.
Yeah.
You like the Spanish? Well, then you have the English, who are what you call settler. Okay? In settler colonialism, you come and you kill or kick out everybody in an area. And you take their land, and you use it for your crops, you use it for your cattle, you use it to build your towns. No more Native Americans. You look at the eastern coast of the United States, there are very few reservations, and they are very small. Because that's where the English settled at, and that's where they started things out. Basically, from the east coast to the Mississippi River, there are very, very few and very, very small reservations. Because that was not the way we settled back then. We settled by taking over all the land and saying, hey, just go west of the Mississippi. We'll never touch you over there. Oh, whoops, yeah, about that. We're going to come settle there too. That's how our pattern started. It's interesting because you can actually see this difference between Canada and America. The French mostly settled in Canada. And all along, the Canadian policy towards the Native Americans, who they call First Peoples, has always been more positive than the United States policy. The United States policy has pretty much always been negative. It's not been a very positive policy. Okay? And that shows in these different settlement patterns. Now, why would they do this? Because of a specific economic plan they had called mercantilism. This is that one sentence you have to write down. Mercantilism is a theory where national power is based on a finite amount of wealth. Okay, I'll let you write that down and I'll talk about it because I know finite is a funky word. We need to go over it.
How do you know all this stuff? Do you like store things in your brain?
I have a computer chip in there that, holds on to everything.
Hey,
Just kidding. No, I just like it. I just like knowing this stuff. Now, so since we're talking about computer chips and brains and stuff like that, we must be ready to talk about this term. Mercantilism. It was an economic theory. Today we have capitalism. Capitalism says that there's an ever-expanding amount of wealth. You just have to make it. In mercantilism, they said there's a finite amount. So let's go to an example of infinite and finite and all that, because you need to understand that word. Who here has seen Toy Story? Raise your hand if you've seen Toy Story. Okay, now, what does Buzz Lightyear say? Okay, now, what does infinity mean?
Forever.
Forever and ever. So what is the opposite of forever and ever?
Never.
Never, or very small. Okay? If there's a finite resource, there's only a certain amount. So I could say, I'll give you all the money in the world, and the money in the world keeps on growing and growing and growing. That's an infinite amount of money, right?
Yeah.
Or I could say, I have $10, and you have to figure out how to split it up amongst you. That is a finite amount of money. And that's how the Europeans at that time thought about things. They thought there's only so much wealth in this world. And if you want to be the dominant nation in Europe, what are you going to have to do?
Get money.
Get money. How do you get money? A variety of ways. One of them, by colonizing. Okay? And so they were going out to get money so they could be the dominant people, like we talked about earlier, right? Yesterday and today we talked about colonism and how they were doing it so they could gain prestige in Europe. They didn't care so much about the Native Americans gaining prestige with them. It was other Europeans they worried about. So, here we go. Spanish exploitation. They were exploitative. What this means is a small group of individuals from colonial nations ruled the natives. Like I said, they come in, they kill Moctezuma, they rule. Basically, things stay the same for a couple hundred years for most of the Aztecs. It doesn't change a whole lot. They bring in the Catholic Church, they bring in horses, they bring in livestock. That changes the Aztec life a little bit, but are they still the peasants? Yeah. So it doesn't really change a lot.
Wait, what? Never mind.
That's okay, go ahead, Brett.
Like, they were trying like,
Spelled Mexico wrong.
did they ever like rule very much or
Mr. Schmidt.
Oh yeah,
like how big?
we're going over that.
Spelled Mexico wrong.
The next group, we have the conquistadors, okay? Sounds like an English word. Conquered most of Latin America. And Brett, there you go. That map shows you basically the conquistador realms. Those are what the Spanish conquered. But they went to more places than just that. There were a couple of conquistadors that failed to take over lands, but they did some crazy stuff.
Oh geez, they had all that?
Yeah, all of that was Spanish territories.
Why'd they do it?
Because they could.
Really?
Remember the mercantilism? They had to get the money for their country and for themselves. But, Annika, great question, because personal riches, okay? Yeah. Yep. You want me to go ahead?
Sure, I know we talked about Atahualpa and Pizarro. Remember the guy who was sniffing the Bible, Atahualpa? He was like, what the heck? Threw it. Okay, a lot of historians believe that that never really happened, and maybe he just came in and killed everyone because he wanted the gold so that Pizarro conquistador. Okay? So a lot of these conquistadors are just in search of money, like right away. Keep hearing rumors of money here, and they just go in.
What is
Wait,
it?
Money. These people are greedy.
Atahualpa and Pizarro.
Okay, just like Montezuma and Cortez.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So personal riches. What do we mean by personal riches?
Money.
Wait, let me explain. If you're the dude who goes on a conquering binge in the Americas, okay, you're backed by somebody. Somebody gives you money so you can go and do that. If you happen to be Cortez, if you happen to be Cortez, okay, what's going to happen is you're going to go, you're going to conquer, and you're going to come back. And when you come back, you're going to make Bill Gates look poor. Yes, literally, okay? And if you're just an arquebusier, one of the guys with the gun, okay, that's all you do. You go out and you shoot people. You're going to come back and you're going to look like a multi-millionaire, okay? That's the kind of wealth these people could get. So is that probably going to motivate people to go do things?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now, in this world that they lived in, social position was even more important than ours. So the drive to have greater social mobility also pushed people to go around. If you conquered a place, you could become not only wealthy, but you can become a noble, okay? What do we mean by become a noble? If you conquer a place, you become the governor. You couldn't be a peasant or a lower caste person and become a governor. You had to become a noble. So you would go up in mobility. Also, you get honor and prestige, which are our next two words up here. Those will add to your social level, okay? Because you have gained honor through conquering people. You've gained prestige because, holy cow, you're the dude who took out the Aztecs. Wow. Impressive.
Is that how it is today? Still?
Brett had a question first.
You could move up in like rank. You can go from like a peasant to noble.
You could. It was very difficult. This was one of the best ways to go about it.
Oh,
Okay?
so over time, nobles could become like a.
Yeah, you could actually buy an ability, but it costs a lot of money. And how do you get that money?
Personal.
Okay, Monica, you had a question? No, you didn't, Josie.
Are we still like that today?
Not so much. There's still you gain honor and prestige for playing, like, Overwatch UFC. But not necessarily. Or like the football players, they gain honor and prestige for what they do, but it's not quite the same. You don't conquer so much for honor and prestige. Joseph, you have a question?
Can you go from the noble to
Absolutely, you can. If you do something so bad that it's not bad enough for you to be killed, but it's still really bad, it'll still be in your privileges. Okay, next up. Who were these conquistadors of which you speak? Hernan Cortez is our first one. Cortez conquered Mexico, Aztec Mexico in 1519.
Remember, if you fall behind with Mr. Thompson, you can always look up at the board with Mr. Lee. He's got it all up there.
Okay, so what did Hernan Cortez do? He came in and conquered. We watched that video and he talked a lot about Cortez conquering, okay? He was followed by a dude named Francisco Pizarro. What did Pizarro do? In 1532, he went and conquered the Incan Andes.
No, wrong.
When, that's a good idea, but that was also covered by Hernan Cortez, because the mines are kind of controlled by the Aztecs already.
Are you gonna pull the fire alarm?
No, I'm just waiting. Okay, now, ladies and gentlemen, look back here. Now, we have this beautiful map of the world. Let's make use of it. We have Mexico, okay? A conquistador comes to Mexico, and he conquers it, and what does he get? A lot of
Money.
Then you have another conquistador. He heads south to the Andes. He conquers it, and he gets a lot of what?
Money.
So, lightning is struck twice. The Spanish know that they went and conquered Mexico and they got money. And they went and they conquered South America and they got money. So they look, where next? North America. Thinking what?
They were gonna get money.
They're going to get a lot of money. So what happens?
They don't.
They got treated.
They got killed.
You have a dude named De Soto. In 1533 to 1541, he wandered across the southeast U.S. And it wasn't exactly like wander like a whole nice little like.
He killed people.
He killed a lot of people. Changed a lot of things. And not so good. Not so good.
Under the south.
Yeah, I know.
What's that?
What?
Connor asked if you do that just until he's like, no.
I've been around here.
Yeah. That's how you know everything.
This is true.
Duh.
Because they had robots a couple thousand years ago. It's a story. It's a secret. Now, ladies and gentlemen, De Soto. He thought, well, hey man, they've been successful down in South America and Central America. I'm going to go find myself some gold up in that North American place, which they call North America, but whatever. He goes to Florida. All right, he starts out here around Tampa, and he goes on a rampage, multiple years, all the way up, goes across the Appalachians, comes back down, gets down here to Alabama, almost to the coast, and says, oh shoot, I haven't found any gold yet. I need to go back up there and find some more. So he goes back through and he rampages through, going up and along like this. He eventually comes down the Mississippi. He dies along the Mississippi River. His men bury him in the Mississippi, and then they carry on. They get all the way down to the coast, and they wander along the coast all the way into Texas, and eventually manage to find their way to a group of Spanish who were riding guard. Now, on that trip, he left notes about what he saw. As he was traveling around, he saw civilizations. And when I say civilizations, let's see if I can put up the chair. When I say civilizations, he found cities that were full of people. He found fields and fields of agricultural produce, corn, squash, beans, all the stuff being grown there. He found people that had tons of pearls. He found a little bit of gold, mostly a lot of pearls, a whole bunch of wealth. And as he went through, he killed a bunch of people. And his men were diseased. They had survived smallpox, okay? They carried smallpox, and as they were amongst the natives, what do you think they spread?
Smallpox.
Smallpox. Not only did smallpox kill them, though, but if you had the flu, or if you had the measles, okay, as a child, most Europeans back then had measles. They were carriers. They came into native villages. What do you think they spread?
Measles.
If they had the flu, they brought pigs with them. Pigs carry flu. What do you think they spread?
Flu.
And what do you think that did to the Native Americans?
Killed them all.
Killed a lot of them. So, when DeSoto went through, he talked about all these massive, amazing civilizations that are all over the place. 200 years later, when Europeans started going back into the same area, they found abandoned villages that had been rotting for 200 years. They found forests where there used to be fields. And then they talked to the Native Americans, the local Cherokee, Choctaw, Chippewa, Seminole, Chippewa? Did I miss Chippewa?
No, you said that.
Seminole, there you go, okay. When they talked to them, their creation stories carried one common theme. There was a great sickness that passed over the world, and all those who survived became our ancestors. Who brought that sickness? DeSoto, as he rampaged across. Now there's another guy, Coronado. He did much the same thing. In 1539, he wandered across the Southwest. Now, it ended up not having quite the same impact on the Southwest as it did on the Southeast, but they were rather brutal. This comes from when the Spanish actually colonized New Mexico, Arizona, and such later on. But the way that they would punish people is they cut off their foot. There was a rebellion at one point. There was a rebellion at one point, and what happened was any man who was over 25, so between 25 and 50, they would cut off their foot and make them a slave for 20 years. All right? If you were a boy between the age of 12 and 25, so you guys, you were made slaves for 20 years. You didn't cut off your foot. You got to keep your foot, but you were made a slave for 20 years. And they don't even mention what they did to the women.
Can you hear?
No, you can imagine. Cody. Yes.
Why would they cut off their foot if they wanted them to be slaves?
No, it comes to foot, and they take a red hot blade that you've heated up really hot, and you touch the stump, and that cauterizes so that it won't run off. A lot of people did die, yes, but not everybody. And why would you do that? Because those people with their foot cut off, a reminder would have to be domestic Spanish.
Annika has a good question.
Shoot.
Why would you cut off their foot if you wanted them to be slaves?
Okay, I'm sorry, I was just explaining that to Cody. Why you would do that is because all those people who are slaves, they're a reminder of what happens if you mess with the Spanish. You lose your foot. It wasn't necessarily about them being slaves to help the Spanish. It was about them providing social stigma for everybody else that you don't want to do that. Because what happens?
Aztecs in their skulls?
What's that?
Like the Aztecs in their skulls?
Yes. Yep. Okay, now, Spanish settlements. This is where we really get into the exploitation aspect of it. You have pueblos, which were towns or communities. So as I was talking about before, you have the local rulers killed. You have the local rulers killed. And then the Spanish come in, and they take over. Okay? The towns and communities were made up of the local natives. You also have missions, much the same thing. They were religious towns and communities. This happened all over Mexico, all over the Andes, all over California. Okay? The Spanish would come in, they'd create a mission, which had a presidio, a fort near the mission to protect it. And then you'd have all the natives in the area who were forced to work for the Spanish, in what's called an encomienda. The Spanish were given the right to demand tax and labor from the natives. Okay, this is how they exploited them. They came in, they said, you're going to farm for us, we're not going to do the farming ourselves, you're going to do it for us, and then you're going to give us everything that you produce, we'll give you a little bit of it back, but otherwise, it's ours, not yours. I'm exploiting you in a very nasty way. It wasn't slavery, but it wasn't a far cry from slavery.
That sounds like slavery.
Yeah, it's not too different. Like Mr. Lee just said, it's basically feudalism only in a very nasty way. Okay, now, following up with Encomienda y Bartolomeo de las Casas. He wrote about the wars of Spanish colonialism.
Say his name again.
Which? Bartolomeo de las Casas.
How long did it take you to learn this name?
A couple minutes. Now, what kind of the sad thing about Bartolomeo de las Casas is that he wrote about how horrible the Spanish were to the natives, and so they started to get a conscience and like, man, we should be nicer. And so they set up laws in Spain about how nice you have to be to the natives in the area, and then they all said, well, shoot, who's going to work for us if we can't beat on the natives? Africa. And they started bringing slaves in. Bartolomeo de las Casas wrote about how horrible the Spanish were, and as a result, we got slavery.
I have a question. Like, I'm not being racist, but have blacks always been like, why are they always...
You have slaves in your ancestry. I have slaves in my ancestry. Because in Europe, before they started to bring African American Africans to become slaves, your ancestors had slaves who were other Europeans. Okay?
So it wasn't just all black.
No.
There were Irish slaves up in the North Blood.
Okay, now, explorers of the North. We're switching gears, ladies and gentlemen. We have covered the Spanish, and for the amount of talking, you quite obviously are done writing. So, we're moving to the North. Before we go on to how the French and the English settled, we have to talk about the exploration of the North, very briefly, okay? So, first off, you get the Northwest Passage. This is what they were searching for, mythical sea route to Asia, okay? Why did Columbus come out here? Because he thought he could get to Asia. And Europeans still thought they could. They wanted to find this, so they believed in the depths of their being there was some sea route that would go over the north of the world that would take them to Asia, cutting down the journey. So people like John Cabot searched it out. In 1497, John Cabot found Newfoundland. Then, following John Cabot, he didn't find it. A guy named Giovanni de Verrazano. Verrazano, excuse me.
Did John Cabot die?
Because I can. Now, Giovanni, what did he do? In 1524, he sailed from Nova Scotia to the Carolinas, finding those and naming them after places, like Scotland. And Carolinas after Queen Caroline.
Wait,
Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia. Following Giovanni de Verrazano came Jacques Cartier. In 1535, Jacques found the St. Lawrence River.
Do you speak French?
No. But I have visited France and therefore had to learn a few words here and there.
How do you say hello? How do you say hello?
Bonjour.
It's been a while. Yeah. Great part. Now, ladies and gentlemen, next up, you have Henry Hudson. In 1609, Henry Hudson found the Hudson River, and then he found another place, and because he liked his name so much, he named it after him too.
He's creative. Hudson River.
What's that?
I don't think I didn't think.
That's why I used to be that.
Okay, we have a lot of talking, so we must be ready to roll on. Now, the French, the way that they settled was economic. There's a big difference between economic colonialism and settler or exploitative. A small group of colonists would arrive, and they would conduct economic exchange with the natives. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and wrap up, grab a little bit of notes, and be ready to roll tomorrow.
Why is there a camera in here?
Cheers.
He's gonna post it on